Welcome back to another beautiful day here at the South Texas Village. Today we're going to make marinated steak bites with potatoes. This is my daughter's all-time favorite meal. What's nice about this meal is you can use a cheaper cut of meat, making this a little bit more economical than a traditional steak dinner. All right, let's get started. So for this, I'm going to use 2 top sirloin steaks, and I'm going to dice them up or chunk them up into 1-inch cubes. All right, so this is a fairly large piece of meat, and you can see there's some fat in here. Whenever I cut it up, I'm going to cut some of that fat off. I'm not going to cut all of it off because you do want some of the fat in the meat when it cooks. It's going to render out and create nice flavor. Because you're cutting this in cubes, you don't necessarily have to worry too much about cutting across the grain. Normally with top sirloin, it is kind of a little bit more tough than some of your higher quality steaks. So you do want to make sure then you're cutting across the grain to make sure it's more tender when you're chewing it. But for this case, you don't have to worry so much about that. I do like to cut this up before I marinate it. That way the marinade really soaks into the meat very well. All right, so once you get your meat cut into about 1-inch pieces and you took off all the extra fat or the gristle or any parts of the meat that you didn't like, go ahead and put it into a Ziploc bag. All right, I'm gonna go get my cutting board cleaned off and I'll be right back. All right, so our meat is diced up into 1-inch cubes. Our cutting board is now nice and washed and dried. We're gonna work on our marinade. That's gonna be 1/2 cup of olive oil. Okay, so you're gonna do 1/3 of a cup of soy sauce. It's okay if your measurements are not exact. We're gonna do 1/3 of a cup of lemon juice. I always roll my lemons before I squeeze them. It helps break up that pulp a little bit, makes it a little bit easier. Okay, I think I'm actually going to add 1 more lemon to this. You're going to need 1/4 of a cup of Worcestershire sauce. When I do this in my marinades and I need a larger amount, I always pull out the little inside piece. And then it just pours in so much easier. I'm going to add a little bit more to that. Make sure you give your Worcestershire sauce a shake before you use it because there's some stuff that settles at the bottom. And again, just pop out that piece and then you can just pour it. Okay, you need about 3 tablespoons of dried basil. You don't have to use fresh for this. Dried is just fine. Well, that's good enough. All right, you need 1.5 tablespoons of garlic powder. 1.5 teaspoons of dried parsley. And again, these measurements don't have to be exact. Always measure with your heart. All right, and some white pepper. I don't have white pepper, so I'm going to use black pepper. So it's about a teaspoon. And then you can add fresh garlic to this. I'm not going to do that yet because I want to add it when we're cooking. Just going to mix this up. This marinade is good for all steaks. We're going to cook the steak in a cast iron pan in the house today, not out on the grill. But when you make this marinade and you marinate your steaks and cook them on the grill, it's delicious. All right, just pour this over your steak bites and then marinate for at least 2 hours. If you can marinate it for longer, that's even better. And it can sit in the fridge overnight. If we didn't cut these pieces up, I would have marinated it overnight for sure. Okay. And just give it a good mix. Make sure all those pieces are coated. And then what I like to do, just in case this bag falls over and it opens up, I put this in a bowl and just set it in the fridge. And we're gonna let this set for about, probably about 3 to 4 hours today. But make sure it's a 2-hour minimum. Our marinade has been in the fridge for about 3 hours. I went ahead and pulled it out. I did give it another little squish just to make sure all of the meat is nice and coated with that marinade. And I did that a few times during the marinating process. All right, now I have some potatoes. This is about 2.5 pounds of potatoes. They're already peeled. These are russet potatoes, but you can use any potato type that you want. We just always have russets on hand. I'm going to cut these into about 1-inch chunks. You want them to be about the same size as your steak bites. You can do this on a cutting board if you want to, but it's easy enough to do in your hand, and it's one less thing that you have to wash. The potatoes always leave a starch on my cutting board, and so if I don't have to cut them on that, I would rather not, because then I have to wash it after I cut them. I remember when I was a little girl and I would watch my grandma cook, she always cut all of her vegetables in her hands. I've never been able to do that with most of the vegetables. I can do it with potatoes, and I can do it with onions if I'm cutting them in big chunks. But most of the time I do need to use a cutting board. All right, once all of your potatoes are cut into bite-sized chunks, you're going to go ahead and drain it, and then we'll cook it in the skillet. So in the bottom of my pan, I do have some oil. There's not a lot, just enough to cover the bottom. But I wanted to add some bacon grease to that too, just to give the potatoes a little bit extra flavor. Okay. When you add in your potatoes, be very careful because it is hot oil and you're adding something that's been sitting in water and has a lot of water in it naturally. So when you put it in the oil, there's a chance it's going to splash up on you. So when you do it, make sure all the water is drained out, and then you're going to pour it away from you, and you're going to do it quick. And you want to try to get as much of the potatoes covering the entire surface of the pan as quickly as possible. That's going to make it splash a lot less. Okay, once your potatoes are in the pan, give them a stir. Get them covered with the oil first. All right, we're gonna cover it with the lid and let this cook for about 10 minutes. I'm gonna stir it once or twice during that time. I'm just trying to get the potatoes to soften and to get some flavor on them from the bacon grease. I'm not gonna season them yet. I'm gonna wait to season them afterwards. You don't wanna season them with salt right away because that's going to pull out all of that extra water, and it's not going to let the potatoes cook right. So you always wait to season your potatoes until the very end. All right, once your potatoes are almost done, you're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to them. You don't have to worry about seasoning them too much because they are going to cook again with the meat, and the meat has all that marinade that has all the good flavor to it. So I just salted them and put some pepper on them, and now I'm going to give them a good stir to get that mixed in. You do want to have some color on some of your potatoes. So you want to see that there's some nice golden brown color to it before you pull them out. All right, so you want to remove these potatoes and put them on a paper towel lined plate. Okay, and to this I'm going to add a little bit more grease. Let me get my grease. I am just using some canola oil for this. Putting just a little bit in there. And then I'm going to add in my meat. I'm going to do this in batches. I don't want to overcrowd the pan. I only want to put enough in that it covers the bottom of the pan. If you overcrowd it, then it's going to produce a lot of liquid, a lot of water, and it's going to steam your meat instead of searing it. So we're probably only going to add about 1/3 to 1/2 of this bag at a time. And the marinade's going to go into the pan too, and that's fine. All right, so once this first batch of meat is ready, you're going to pull it out and just put it on a paper plate. It does not have to be a paper towel lined paper plate, just a regular plate's fine. All right, and I noticed when I was cooking that first batch that we actually have too much oil. So we're going to drain out all of the oil into a bowl. Never put it down your sink. Put it into a bowl. I'm not going to worry about wiping it out. I'm just going to drain it just like that. That's fine. Okay. I'm just going to wipe up this extra. Okay. Now I'm just going to add the rest of my meat. I think I can get it all done in 2 batches. So what I was not taking into consideration was the oil in the marinade when I added the extra oil to the pan. Okay, let me turn my stove back on. And we're gonna let this part cook. As our steak is cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and prepare our asparagus. I have 2 bunches of asparagus here, so I know it looks like a lot, but we are a big family and we like asparagus. So I just cut off the tips. These have been washed. I'm gonna put them into a bowl. And then we're gonna cook it with some garlic and some lemon juice. I already have the garlic minced up. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut our lemon and have it ready for us when we're cooking. Okay, so this is a 12-inch skillet. It's not our deep dish one, it's just a regular skillet. I do have some olive oil in it and I'm heating it up. This will be for our asparagus. It is time to go ahead and pull out our steak. And you saw that there was quite a bit of liquid in this steak. That's from the marinade. Normally when I make this recipe, I don't do a marinade on the meat. I wanted to try it this time to see if it would give the meat more flavor. Normally I just do a simple garlic and butter seasoning on this. So there's not any marinade, so it has a lot less liquid, so I need more oil when I'm cooking it. But I think it's going to be fine. What I'm going to do now is add in some garlic. I want to turn down the heat first. I'm going to add in our garlic. This is about 3 cloves minced garlic. I'm going to cook it for 30 seconds or so, just until it's fragrant. I did not drain off any of the oil or any of the liquid this time. I'm going to leave it in there because I'm going to add in the potatoes after the garlic is ready. I'm going to add in my potatoes. I'm going to give them a quick toss. It's going to coat them with the oil and what is left of the marinade and the garlic. Okay, and now I'm going to add my steak back in. And give this a quick toss. All right, and this is done, so now we'll focus on the asparagus. And it looks like the olive oil is a little bit too hot. Let's turn this down. All right, so our oil is ready. I'm just going to add in our asparagus. We're going to give it a quick toss in the oil. That just makes sure everything is coated and one side doesn't cook too fast. And then you're going to cook this until the stems start to turn a really bright green. So once your asparagus has turned bright green in color and you can tell that they've started to soften up, you're going to add in your garlic. This is about 3 cloves of garlic that's been minced. Give that a good stir. You don't want to cook it too long at this point because the garlic will burn. And then you're going to take a lemon. We're going to start with a half of a lemon, and we're going to add that to the asparagus. All right, that's going to give it a nice, bright, refreshing flavor. And then we're going to season it with some salt and pepper. All right, go ahead and turn this off the heat. You can add freshly grated Parmesan cheese to this as well. It would be really good. Or you can eat it as is. You could also roast it in the oven, but I always find that doing it in a skillet is much quicker. I do see that some of the asparagus have some blisters on it and they're starting to brown. That's really good. All right. So this was a quick and easy dinner. I would say it came together in under 30 minutes minus the marinade time. You can marinate this meat the night before, so when you come to cook it the next day, it's really quick. All right, so let's give it a try. The meat is so delicious. And the potato's good too. You can taste the lemon in the potato. It's really nice. It's refreshing. That has a lot of good flavor. All right, and the asparagus. That is amazing as well. So this meal works really, really well together. You can also do green beans on the side of this, potatoes and steak if you wanted to. That's usually our go-to. We like to also do a side salad. You can also just do a simple sliced tomato with some salt and pepper on it if you wanted to. It really is a delicious meal. So if you like this content and you wanted to see more of it, please give me a like and a subscribe, and comment down below and let me know if there's anything else you would like to see from me. All right, thank you.